right, you guys, welcome to another episode of Behind the Visual, the podcast where I interview all those people responsible for the images and videos you see out in your world every single day. I am your host, advertising and lifestyle photographer, Mark Hansen. And today, my guest is the new producer at Home Depot, Kelly Swanson. Kelly has had a great career, and she has worked with everybody from Ringling Brothers and Disney on Ice, Siegfried and Roy, to having her own production company, working for Wrangler and Sealy and Lowe's, and now she's over there at Home Depot. She's even had some time working as a models agent at a modeling agency. So check this one out. You guys are going to love it. We're going to talk a little bit about how she got started. We're going to hear some cool stories about working with Ringling Brothers, a time when an elephant almost took his tusk, that's long things out of the elephant, the tusks, and almost crushed her head if some good fortune hadn't come her way. And a time an elephant started trumpeting in the Midtown Tunnel on its way into Manhattan. We're going to hear about that kind of stuff. We're going to hear about working with, like I said, working with Wrangler, what it's like to be backstage at Disney on Ice. So all kinds of cool stuff. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. Let me know what you think. Like it, thumbs up it, subscribe to it, comment on it, all that kind of stuff. And I look forward to hearing all your comments and what you guys thought about this one. First of all, tell me where you grew up and how you grew up, and what was there any little things when you were a kid that made you think producing would be cool? I mean, because I don't know, or a good job, because I don't, you don't go to school to be a producer. Somehow you just become a producer. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering how you grew up, if you were artistic, if you were like somebody who was always making lists and keeping things neat, or what happened.
Well, first of all, I'm an only child. So it's like, I like to do things myself, and I like to do them like my way. That's definitely like a big deal. So, and then I was definitely like found that as I grew up, I was more in the artistic vein for sure. Art classes in high school. And then I actually got my BFA from UNCG. So, I'm from Greensboro. And I was, born and raised, and, have fantastic parents and everything. They were always very supportive, even though my mom likes to tell me that payback is going to be hell with my daughter. So that's definitely, she's 15 now, and so far so good. But I don't know. I was like, oh, so maybe I was a problem child.
Oh, if she's still good at 15, then you must have been
right.
And if that's your payback, then you might have been a pretty decent daughter. If you're 15.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree. She's awesome. But so then let's see. So I went through UNCG. My background was in design. So it's like, you get your BFA and then you have like a concentration. And so It was design. And
Did
so
you have
within
an idea
design,
of what you wanted to do when you graduated?
Well, I jumped around for a couple of different degrees. I started with English, and then that didn't work out. And then actually I took a break from school and kind of worked for a year just to kind of figure that out again. And so when I came back, that's when I decided that like art was going to be the one.
Okay.
So, and then and it's weird because you can like concentrate on different things within design. And so photography, I had, his name is Arnold, or A. Doran, was my photography teacher. And he was really incredible, like really like cool teacher that I learned a lot from, a professor. And so really dug all of his classes. And then I also did a lot of pottery, which is weird. So if I was going to leave school and be a potter. I literally like that was my deal. I was going to move to Seagrove and be a potter. So, but the reason I didn't is because I actually got a job offer. I worked at Banana Republic, like at Friendly Center through college. And so after I graduated, I got an offer from one of my like clients, one of the people that come in all the time. She knew my background and knew what I was into. And so she had moved up to Washington, D.C. and had a job with Feld Entertainment. And I'll tell you what that is here in a second.
Yeah.
But so she called me on the phone at Banana Republic, because we were just kind of, distant friends. And she called me and she was like, hey, I'd love for you to interview for this position. We have like a photography department, like coordinator position available. And I think you would be really great at it. And I'm like, okay, tell me what Feld Entertainment is. And so Feld Entertainment is, or was, I guess, I don't know what they're doing these days, but Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey Circus. And they also owned Disney on Ice and Siegfried and Roy.
Really?
So yeah. So I was like, okay, this is crazy, but I'm going to go to DC and interview for the position. And so I got it, which is exciting. And so I moved up in DC. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I lived up in DC for, I think like 4 or 5 years, and worked there and kind of moved from coordinator to like manager within that department. And that was like truly like where I learned all the ropes for photography, all of them, like literally. We used Heinz Klutmeyer, who was the senior photographer for Sports Illustrated. And so like he was our main photographer that we shot with.
Oh, wow.
And so Heinz was like, I mean, a mentor to say the least. He taught me literally like everything about, we were still shooting film, doing the light boxes and looking at film. And, I was like helping him with selects. And also my manager, Pete Duval, was also there. And I learned a lot from Pete too. He was really cool. And so working with him and Heinz and Pete, it was just an amazing experience for sure. And so I learned so much. We traveled, we would go down for the circus in, they had like their winter quarters yearly in like November to like December, January. And so we would go down to Brandon, Florida, which is outside of Tampa, and literally like live with these people and do all kinds of behind the scenes photography with the animals and the performers and just the whole show. We'd photograph the show. Heinz would be like suspended from like the catwalks. And just insane experience. It was amazing. I mean, truly, between the circus and then doing the ice shows, like the ice skaters and seeing the behind the scenes from Disney. I mean, that's nuts. That's like some crazy stuff. It was crazy. It was, you're seeing people with like you see Mickey Mouse, but like their heads off and they're like holding it underneath their, it was like super, like a big deal. Like you're not allowed to photograph anything like that at all. Like everyone has to be like super buttoned up, and working with the Disney corporate people was really strict. I mean, that was like, I just didn't even have any idea how much they protected their brand, but I learned for sure. So it was a really cool experience. Yeah. And I was there when, I don't know if it was Siegfried or Roy, whichever one like got like attacked during the show.
By the tiger. Yeah. Were you there at the show?
I wasn't at the show, but I was working at Feld at the time. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was like a big deal.
Yeah. So what happened when that went down? Was that like was everybody panicking and panic mode?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. It was like legal teams are coming in, and like people are like, somebody's got to get the footage, because I guess they film every show, and like, they got to get that on like lockdown, and so they can figure out what happened. But then, Kenneth Feld, the owner, he always was like, no, like bad press, or like bad press is not bad. Like any kind of press whatsoever is a good thing. So like, of course, he's like over there, like, yes, which is crazy. But it was a really incredible job. I literally, I was putting people together that didn't speak English, like making sure they got to their call times on time so that we could photograph them, and hiring makeup artists, and, working with these incredible photographers. We had one shoot with, oh my gosh, Bruce Weber. What he wanted in Miami, he wanted to do a shoot with like elephants, and then like all these like top models. That was kind of like a cool thing. I mean, there was just really, it had the amount of experiences that I was able to have with Feld, I could never recreate. I mean, it was like incredible. I learned so much. And, we would do like the animal walk through with the elephants through the Midtown Tunnel, going into like Madison Square Garden. And I mean,
Wow.
who gets to do that? It's crazy. It was the craziest thing in the world, but I had enough and I had to move on.
So you were having to do this for all three, for the Ringling Brothers, the Disney on Ice, and Siegfried and Roy. So you're having
I
to
didn't really do
work
much
with
with them.
all of them. So
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do much with Siegfried and Roy, just Disney on Ice and the circus and Ringling. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So was Siegfried, all
So
that stuff, was that basically shooting for like posters and promotional pieces and that kind of thing? Yeah.
Yep. Literally every piece of like PR, every piece of, like you said, like those books that you buy, they're like, I don't know, $20 or whatever, like the they use those images everywhere. So it was a big deal to like, immerse yourself with the show. And I was down there like every week for a month or two at a time. So it was a lot of travel.
Yeah, Ringling's a big deal down that whole Tampa area, aren't they?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a way of life. I mean, they had like an entire with like a fairground. They would like, I'm pretty sure they owned this piece of property. It was like a massive, like fairground of like space where people would have animals and like their RVs, and they would get around on little like scooters. And I mean, it was enormous. It was enormous. It was definitely like, it was a little town. It was just like a family, a big family of people.
Don't
for
they have
sure.
like a mansion down there in Tampa someplace? I think it was used in some movie.
I think there is like a Ringling.
Yeah, it's like a Ringling museum, or maybe they lived there or something, someplace in Tampa, because it was used in, there's a movie and it's a famous book and it became a movie, and I think it's Ethan Hawke's in it, somebody's in it. And there's a lot of green in the movie. Everything's green. Gwyneth Paltrow's in it. And I have a blank on the name of that movie every single time I try and think about it, but it's a great movie. And it's okay. So he lives in Florida, or kind of in a swamp area, and he finds, I think it's Robert De Niro is an escaped convict, and he turns out to be really rich, and he pays for him because the kid's name is Finn, and Finn's an artist. And then he ends up working, becoming famous, and all of this is so he can get Gwyneth Paltrow, and Gwyneth is always into some other dude. Why can I not remember the movie? I can't. What the hell is the name?
We'll have to IMDb that, because I don't know. Is it like Big Ring or like
It is God. Okay, it's based off a book. And what is it called? I didn't know Gwyneth Paltrow had done so much crap. And there's a lot of green in it. Say that again. Great Expectations.
I feel like
it's Great Expectations.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You know what? I've actually not seen that movie.
It's a good movie.
But I read the book.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a good movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I've never read the book.
Yeah. I know my mom's an English teacher, so like she made me read everything. So I read the book.
Maybe I should read the book. I like the movie, so maybe I should read the book.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's got the time? I mean, come on.
I know. Yeah. I would literally read. I have some books I read. I literally read at night while my wife is finishing getting ready for bed. Maybe 10 minutes a night, and that's it.
Yeah. Because I'm immediately asleep. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. The only other time is if we go on vacation to Hilton Head. And there's a lot my dad lives down there, so there's a lot of time I'm sitting around doing nothing if we're not on the beach. And then I'll sit there and I can read a lot then. But yeah,
I mean, that sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, it's nice to have some downtime and do nothing. Yeah, so it's
right.
Okay, so sorry. So you're at Feld, you did the whole Ringling Brother, all that nonstop. Was the
Mhm.
photographer Hines, was that dude with you like for months at a time, or would he just come in for like a day or two or 5 or whatever and shoot and then bolt out?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like he, hmm, he had a great situation going on with Sports Illustrated. Like I said, he kind of like, he'd already worked he was like on his way out as far as like he could retire if he wanted
Right.
to. He'd been there that long. And so he would just come and go, whenever we needed him. He would just adjust his schedule. And he really was only on like special projects at that point. Like he was shooting the swimsuit issue and like things like that.
Yeah.
Like Poor Thing.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
If you like in your mind, I mean, Hines is literally like what's his name? From The Shining. What's that actor's name?
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson. Like he's like handsome, older man, like dates like everybody. I mean, like young women love him. I mean, it was just crazy. He was a rock star. He was a total rock star and like so charismatic, but also like really, really like German moody. Like all of a sudden he'd be like, ah, and I'm like, oh God. And you'd have to give him like chocolate covered espresso beans to get him to like calm down. It was pretty crazy.
Espresso beans would calm him down.
Yeah.
So he's
Yep,
like
they would.
kind of dude.
Yeah. Totally. That was exactly what it was. So it was a really I mean, gosh, he's just a really like kind and giving man too. He was really a great person. So it was a really incredible experience. And like living in DC was so awesome. It
Really?
was so awesome. Oh my gosh, I just loved it. It was just the perfect size for me. Like I always was like, oh, I want to like big city living, that'd be so fun, but oh, I'm scared, like New York's too much, or something like that. So like DC was like the perfect size. We lived in the city, just made great friends. It was amazing. We just had a really great time. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. And then it was like, oh, well, it's about time for me to like think about having children. And so that was where we decided to move back to Greensboro because it was just it was just the expense of living there was like unbelievable. And, my parents are here in Greensboro and it was like, let's just come back to Greensboro. So that's kind of where it like shut down.
Okay. So when you
Yeah.
decide to move back, what was
Yes.
the thought process on that? I mean, was it okay, we're just gonna move back and I'll figure something out when I get there, or did you already have it figured out before you left to go there?
No, I definitely did not have it figured out. And so when we moved back, it was like, what I don't even know what to do. I have no idea what to do. I didn't even really know that there were photography studios and like that whole like industry in the High Point, Greensboro area. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even know that existed. And so that's where I started like doing some digging. And I actually met David McLean with King's English, like
Mm,
so kindly, like totally like met with me because I reached out to ad agencies. I mean, I was like blanketing Greensboro. Like I didn't know what to do. I just was reaching out to literally everyone. And David McLean was super kind and met with me and gave me some great suggestions on who to talk to and made some good connections, and which was awesome. And then I ended up going to Directions. Ironically enough, I went to Directions to see if maybe I could be an agent there, which is
yeah.
crazy. Now that I'm saying this, I was like, I can't
So
believe.
you went from working with all these major people, major productions to see if you could be a model agent at Directions.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
I
So
get it.
let's
Yeah.
see
I mean,
what happens.
yeah. I can see
And
that.
so when I went and met, when I interviewed with them, they were still over in that little office on West Market,
Mhm.
like their first one, their like small one. And so I remember meeting with Jill, and Michael DeFosse was there and Pam was there. And so Pam Warner was my contact. They ended up, what they did was they brought me on as a stylist pretty much. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't know because I just didn't have the experience with like modeling agencies that like, they were bringing me on, they were signing me on to be a stylist. Right.
Right.
And so I was immediately like hooked up with Linda Stansberry.
Had you done this
And
like styling before?
No.
Okay. So wait, let me
I
get this
mean,
right. So you go to direction and say, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in seeing possibly about being a model's agent," and they go, "I tell you what, we're gonna make you a stylist."
you are going to be great as a stylist.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I guess, because like I worked at like Banana and I've always kind of been into like fashion and style and like, that kind of thing. Maybe they just figured it like would work out. So,
All
I
right.
mean, so I was Linda's assistant, but Linda's, um, I think at the time her only client was Lowe's Home Improvements, and so I would go with Linda to Lowe's to the corporate office, like learn about what the stylist. That's how I met like Diana Lang. I mean, like
Yeah.
all of those people, like all the old school like Lowe's stylists that I'm still friends with, Matt Hartman, like Jason Montague, all these people were there. And I would meet with them with Linda, and we'd learn about what it was they needed from the photography studios. And so then we would go to the photography studios and work with the studios. And I was like a creative liaison is actually, so
Okay.
I wasn't a stylist per se. I was more of a creative liaison is
All right.
what they deemed me to be. So
That makes a little
that
more
was really,
sense.
yeah, exactly. So I just kind of like, because I knew about photography and I had that background with, all the background stuff that I could speak the language, where the stylist kind of like struggled. And so
Right.
I was kind of like an interpreter for the photo studios and the photographers and whatnot. And so like, we were just like the go-between. And so
Yeah.
I did that, with Linda for 1 year until she was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm ready to like go ride horses or something. And so I took over, and then so I started in 2005 with Linda, and then went out on my own in 2006. And then like it just got so busy that like I ended up bringing Lauren Tilley in, Natalie Jester, and then like we formed Inc., which was, if you think about it in your mind and you don't get too technical, like the I was kind of supposed to be like an L for Lauren, the N was for Natalie, and the K was for Kelly. So
Okay.
that's how we came up with the name.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So we did,
So
and
after
that
a
was in
year,
2000.
you decided to. So you basically were at directions for a year, and then decided
Mhm.
I'm going to go do my own. I'm going to start my own thing. Is that right? Hey, that's
Yeah.
great.
And I stepped on some toes, unfortunately. I feel like that, Jill, Pam, they probably were kind of pissed because I was like, I can do this on my own. Bye.
I think that's the way they are about a lot of things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I left and just started doing like that whole like creative liaison with Liz from like, 2006 until about 2012 when I like, kind of we separated and they decided to put a lot more emphasis on like, just using Creeper for production and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that kind of was, I mean, an incredible experience in itself, just working with Lowe's. I mean, gosh, they sent us, to San Francisco. We did a shoot in Portland, Oregon. I was down at the coast in North Carolina. I mean, I just went all over
Yeah.
the place with them. It was incredible.
Damn.
That was
So do
really
you
cool.
remember what was your first, say, memorable job on your own that you did? I'm
Um,
assuming it was for
let's
Lowe's.
see. Yeah, I'm thinking like, I definitely, it wasn't really like my first job. I'd been in there enough that I had really been like entrusted. So like Joe Osipinko was new to Lowe's, and he really like saw my value of like the services that we could provide. And so he's the one that had Natalie and I go out to California to shoot cedar decks. So like, cedar decking is not common around here.
Yeah.
And so we had to remotely, contact people, contact photographers, do the production for a shoot in, let's see. So they sent us we flew into San Francisco and drove a little bit to Roseville, California. I think it's called Roseville, right outside of San Francisco. So we shot a cedar deck there. And then drove all the way up, and that, I mean, honestly, like, it was so fun. It was so much fun. We drove all the way up, stopped in Mendocino for like a night, which was incredible. And then we drove up, stayed again somewhere in Oregon.
Did you drive up the coast the whole way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was such a cool experience. And so it has nothing to do with work, but like the actual like ability to be able to go and like stop at Grants Pass in Oregon, that was beautiful. And then make it all the way up to Portland for another cedar deck. So really we only just shot 2 decks, but it was such a cool experience to like meet the photographers, like, you know, do all the production remotely and then actually go there and see it to fruition and style and prop the decking and, you know, just do that whole process, but on the West Coast. And meanwhile, I'm with like my best friend at the time, and we're like having the time of our lives. I mean, it was incredible. We rented like a convertible and, you know, did the whole drive through the redwoods. I mean, we thought that it was a really great experience. So that was definitely a really memorable job that I did with Lowe.
Very cool. I rented a convertible one time when I went to California. And the one time I decided I was going to rent a convertible, it rained the entire time.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
I couldn't take the top down or anything. Since then, I don't even bother. I'm just like, what's the cheapest car I can get? And I just take that.
That's awesome. I'm not even gonna risk it.
Yeah, I don't even bother anymore. So because as soon as I get a convertible, it'll just rain the entire time. I'm sure.
Right. That's really funny.
What's the longest shot you've done?
The longest?
Like the longest you've been, say, out of town. Because I know Lowe's does these month-long spring or whatever patio shoots. So was that the one, or was there another job where you've been out of town? Was that out of town the whole thing? Because I know they shoot in different places.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it wasn't necessarily out of town the whole time, but like, you know, we were in Charlotte for 1 week, and then I went back home, and then we were in Charleston for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And then went back home and back to Charlotte for the last 4, you know, the 4th week of that shoot. So that was a really, you know, it was a long shoot. It was a very life-changingly long shoot.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was definitely, you know, I mean, it was a great shoot. I learned, and that's where I worked specifically with Diana. Her and Drew Meredith, you know, trusted me to like work on that job. And wow.
That's how we first met, was because of them.
Yes, that's right.
The OPE, the outdoor power equipment deal.
Yes.
That 5-day shoot or whatever, week-long shoot, and we went to dinner with you guys.
That's right. We went to Dane's Chicken and Waffles.
Yes, that's the first time I ever had chicken and waffles too.
Me too. That's so funny. I totally remember. And Natalie, I mean, I'm sorry, Lauren Stagner was with me at the time, which was awesome. She's like, I love Mark. I mean, she always like speaks so highly of you, which is awesome. Of course, and I do too. So you're just a really good person. And Drew Meredith was so awesome. He was incredible. I mean, great. I mean, what a nice man. Like he really was a very good person. So
the best thing business related about Drew was when you had the shot, he knew you had the shot, and he was like, we're good, we're done. Either we're done for the day, and it didn't matter what time it was. It could be 11 o'clock in the morning, it could be 5 o'clock in the afternoon. When you had it, you had it. And then it would be move on to the next shot, or like I said, we're finished for the day. We got what we need. No reason to try and shoot 14 different more angles to keep you here for another 4 hours because we have you. But he knew what he wanted. He knew when we had it, and it was amazing. And I hated it when he told me he was leaving. He was like, I know. I'm working a lot for you guys right now. You know what happens when you leave, right? He's like, no, it'll be fine. I was like, no, it will not be. It never is. It just doesn't work.
It never is. Yeah, no, I agree. It's that shift that always kind of messes you up, because I definitely had that experience with when I was like working with Lowe's, then like it literally was like, oh wait, hold on, you know, we're going down here into the patio guide, and then like my friend Kimmy Schramm from Sealy calls, and she's like, hey, you know, like I've got these projects that we need you to work on with Sealy. And so that was like a whole new door that opened. And I mean, I heard someone say the other day that like when one door closes, another one opens. And I cannot tell you how much I totally believe that. I mean, it is crazy how that has happened throughout my entire life. So,
Yeah. I
and
always say
I
it
mean,
would
working,
be nice if like one door would open while the other one's still open. And then I
right.
could double
Yes.
dip on this because it seems like
Right.
I'll have a job booked and then it'll get canned for some reason or whatever. And then usually another one will replace it. But all I was thinking is like, why couldn't, if we could have just kept, this is great. I still am making the same money, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
But it would be great if we could have kept that one and then added this other one as well.
Totally agree with you. That way you don't wind up in the same basket that I wound up in, which is like having one egg in your basket at all times.
I learned that years and years ago when I was shooting. It was right before everything was going digital, or right as everybody was switching to digital. I was shooting a lot for Laura Ashley, and I was doing
Wow.
everything for Laura Ashley. I mean, they
Wow.
liked me so much that Herb Ritz was still alive at the time. He could have sent his book in, and they would have just been like, "Hold it for 2 days and then send it back." And he never did. But if he had, I guarantee you they would have been
Wow.
like, send it back, because they just, I mean, they had me shooting everything. They just really liked me,
Man,
and it
that
was
is awesome.
it was very cool. Yeah, and I was,
Yeah.
but like you said, I had all my eggs in one bag. I wasn't even trying anymore. I was shooting for them so much, I didn't even try and find new clients or other clients. And then when they
Right.
filed bankruptcy and the marketing manager left, it all
Yeah.
took a dive. And then I was scrambling to find more work. So I did learn that lesson then. It's like, don't ever rely on one person, one client.
Right. I know. And every time I thought I learned it, I didn't. Because
Yeah.
it's like, you know, Sealy, like they just commanded and demanded so much of my time and resources and, you know, bringing in other people and all of that. And it's just, I didn't have anything on my plate. I didn't have any time to do anything else. I mean, maybe I might have gotten like a small job here and there. We did I produced 2 shoots for QVC in Charleston, South Carolina, which was cool. But I mean, like here and there, like I couldn't get new clients because I was so busy with like Sealy. And then, like you were saying, Sealy got bought by Tempur-Pedic, and then that changed everything. So there goes those doors, you know, they closed back up. But then Kimmy got a job at Wrangler. So then here we go into Wrangler, you know. So it's like, it's just crazy how it like, I don't know, it's wild. This is like my life is, you know, riding this roller coaster. So
Yeah, I
but it's
think
fun.
that's the whole, at least in this business, the whole working for yourself thing. It's like it's never just, okay, well, I'm assuming so for some people it is, but for I think the majority of people, it's more of a roller coaster thing than it is just a straight to the top kind of deal.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you got to have the right pedigree for it to go, or the right friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Oh my
I was talking
gosh.
about Terry. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about Terry Richardson, the photographer. Do you know who he is? Yeah, the one who basically abused all those models.
Right. Yes, I do remember that.
I had no idea his dad was a famous fashion photographer. I did not know that.
Really?
Yeah. So evidently his dad was a big time fashion photographer. And Terry started like, that's how Terry met a lot of people, started shooting all these celebrity parties.
Right.
And then that led to him shooting campaigns.
Wow.
And then I guess that led to his feeling of superiority and can do whatever I want to do and whatever. But yeah, so
wow.
Yeah, and then Herb Ritt's whole thing was because of I'm terrible with names. Gray hair actor dude. Wow, why am I blanking? I can't even remember the name of the movie, and my wife loves it. Pretty Woman, Richard Gere. So
Richard Gere.
Richard Gere and Herb Ritts were good friends before Richard Gere became famous. And we
Wow.
would just hang out, and Herb Ritts would shoot pictures of Richard Gere. And evidently, some shots he took of Richard Gere caught the eye of some people in Hollywood. And then all of a sudden, Herb Ritts' career took off as well. Of course, you
Wow.
have to be,
That's interesting.
he's a great photographer, and you got to be good for it to help,
Yeah.
for you to continue to go up. But I think unless
Right.
you get some of these little things like that happening, it's more of, like you said, more of a roller coaster ride as far as your career
Right.
is. But
Right.
what makes it interesting?
You know, it is interesting. And one photographer that yeah, Andrew Day, right? He's been like killing it as far as like his because I remember he used to be like a photographer like Trebuzio. And he was just a kid and like just like a normal like photographer at a studio. And he was incredibly, and still is incredibly motivated with his career. And like he's in New York now. Like, I mean, I'm blown away with what he has been able to do for himself. I mean, he has really made himself quite the fashion photographer, which I'm like, good for you. I mean, I applaud your motivation,
Oh yeah.
a lot to be said for being like young and, like have the drive to do it, so I'm like, go Andrew, get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we never did move. We considered moving to New York multiple times.
Uh-huh.
But it was always after like I'd had my kids, and it was just like, there's no way I'm moving to New York to have the kids. And I'm not really a high-end fashion photographer anyway. I'm more of a high-end catalog fashion if I'm shooting fashion, or I'm more
right, exactly.
Yeah. So
I completely agree, which makes you fantastic at what you do.
Oh, well, thank you.
Which is great. Of course. Most definitely.
So how long did you do
just
the
haven't
whole
been able.
Oh yeah. At some point it'll happen. We'll get together and we'll work together.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I was like, we need to do that soon. So
yeah. Hopefully it works out soon. I did something for Home Depot January 2019, I think, or 2020. I don't remember which.
Oh, nice.
May have been 2020. Yeah,
awesome.
I shot some stuff for them, and then of course last year they didn't shoot anything because of COVID and all that. And I had heard that they're interested in using me again to shoot next time, so we'll see.
Nice.
If it happens.
What did you photograph?
It was mostly clothing and product stuff on location with models for I guess it's the stuff they sell to employees that only employees can get.
Oh, yes.
Like the shirts and whatever else. So yeah, so I was shooting, we did a whole thing like some mega mansion kind of house we shot at, and then there was 2 of those I think we shot at, something like that. I don't really remember.
That's awesome.
2 or 3 days, and I do not remember what all the days were. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm still figuring out like who's who and what's what, and like, with like just trying to understand like how and where you do have the opportunity to bring in photographers like you, I mean, like when do you get to do that, and how often does that even happen? And I don't know, they shoot a lot of stuff. It is crazy. I mean, I had no idea until like I just do you know Lori Johnson? She's also on my team. She worked at Creeper on the Lowe's account for years and years and years.
But I don't know if we've met or not. I can't remember.
She's incredible. She shared her screen with me yesterday, and I was like, this is a shot list? Like, I keep scrolling and I keep scrolling and I keep scrolling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. I mean,
one day
they shoot a lot. I mean, well, I know, right? That was that's like over the span of a month, I'm like, that is insane. But that's what keeps studios, open.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, and I don't do a lot of it. Mostly for me, there's usually something with it that has people in it, or
right, exactly.
Not people in it. Yeah. I'm probably not the person you're going to call.
I wouldn't
totally fine with that. I am completely okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I don't need to shoot like details of like a corner of a bag, all day, every day.
Yeah. I applaud. There's some product photographers who are amazing, and I think they're great. And I don't know how to do it because I literally would set up my lighting, take a couple of test shots, adjust the lighting, like, got it. Let's move on to what's next. And, they're going to like do this, getting tighter here, whatever. I'm like, I just don't have that kind of, I don't know, patience for that, or that the product doesn't talk back to me. So there's nothing going on there. So I don't know what it is, but I'm not a product photographer.
You don't want to shoot this little like stack of like sticky notes for
now,
20.
If the stack of sticky notes is in a shot with some people, and then you want a product shot of the sticky notes as well,
right?
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Sign me up.
Like I did some stuff for Husqvarna, and I think we did that. We were having people using some stuff. We need a quick shot of this thing by itself as well. And okay, and now you go over and get the angle and you shoot it and whatever. But most of it was like people actually using the equipment. So
right. I saw the kids thing that you did
with Husqvarna. Yeah. That was fun.
That was awesome. Yeah.
That was actually
great
something
work.
They tacked on after we had already set up to do the stills. They came back about a week or two before and I was like, hey, we want to add video. Can you do it? I was like, yeah, I can shoot the video, because I literally I think I graduated from college about 2 classes short of having a double major in media advertising and broadcast production. So I learned to shoot and edit video and all that stuff. But it's totally, the way you edit now and is totally different from, you're no longer putting your VHS tape in there and then splicing it together and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But now, like knowing that, you're probably going to be cool. Like the VHS is probably going to come back. Like Chloe told me the other day, she's like, "Oh yeah, I wish we had a CD player because all my friends we just buy CDs." And I'm like, "What?" Really? Yeah, okay. That's like a thing. Is they listen to CDs. I'm like, this is weird. What's happening?
Yeah, I think we still have a CD player. I think.
Hold on to it, or I'll buy it from you.
I really don't know if we do. We used to have one of those 5 disc changers where you had 5 CDs in there, but don't think we have that anymore. And we need a VHS because our wedding's on VHS. Yeah. And I need to send that off and have it done. My dad has a VHS to CD converter or DVD converter. I need to get that from him so I can put the VHS in there and convert it to DVD, and then I'll convert that to a file.
And then it'll be digital.
Yeah, I have one DVD player, and I think that's upstairs in the bonus room. Yeah, I think.
Right.
Yeah. But
it's totally antiquated. And it's funny because Chloe was like, she's like, I think you have a CD player in your car. And I'm like, what? I do. It's in the glove compartment. I had no idea.
In the glove compartment? Really? What kind of car do you have?
It's just a Volkswagen like Tiguan. It's nothing fancy, but it's in the glove compartment.
Well, it was interesting because it's in the glove because we have a Yukon and it has it, but it's right there with the radio. And then I have, I put a new radio in. I have a Jeep Wrangler and I put a new radio in for it. I don't think it has a CD player, but it might. I'm not sure. Maybe it does. It does. At the very top. It has a tiny one at the very top. Yeah.
Check the glove compartment. It might be in there.
Could be. I heard that Ford doesn't even put CD players. That for years now they haven't put CD players in their cars. Yeah.
I know. It's so weird.
Maybe it's like vinyl. The kids are like, how the hipsters are doing the vinyl and everybody's with the vinyl record players, and now they're like, oh, we're gonna put everything on CD.
I know. I keep waiting for tapes to come back.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to wait a long time on that one, I think. Although I was in a record store, I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was in a record store and they had a whole section of tapes, just cassette tapes.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Which I was thinking, we do have a boom box kind of thing that still has the tape player on it. And we used to have The Night Before Christmas read by Santa Claus. And we would do that every year at Christmas Eve. And my daughters loved it until, they were in their teens, late teens. And still like, let's do the Santa Claus thing. And then we moved and lost it. And I don't know where the hell it went.
Put in the tape.
Yep. Yeah, you always put in the tape because it was Santa reading to a bunch of little elves the night before Christmas.
That is so funny.
Yeah, and they loved it. Yeah, they absolutely loved it. Okay.
Oh, so Mark.
You do your own thing. How long were you doing? Okay, so you had the mattress thing that went away, and then how much longer till you kind of moved on from that?
Well,
Oh, and Wrangler opened up. That's right. So you guys were started. So we're at Wrangler. So now you guys are doing Wrangler at this point. So what were you
yep.
doing for Wrangler? Were you doing everything for them on shoots, or was it just limited stuff, or
Well,
work out?
um, it just kind of, and the crazy thing too is that like I was able to, and this especially with Sealy was like a big deal, is that like Kimmy was asking us to do things that were beyond production. We were doing their showroom design, and so we would go to like Las Vegas and like
Oh wow.
um redesign their showroom every show. And so like that was like a whole nother like aspect to what we were doing. And so that's where Lauren Stagner, because she's a commercial, like she's like got her degree in like commercial design or something like that.
Okay.
And so that's where she really shined. Well, actually she shined everywhere, but she really did a good job with helping with the design aspect of like doing their showrooms. And that was really fun. That was an incredible experience to be able to like do that, be in Vegas, and like, I mean, off the record, I guess, like Sealy, they were like super deep pocketed. I mean, we would eat out all over Las Vegas. I mean, Kimmy's like, we're going wherever, like, I mean, it was crazy. We had some really fun experiences, but at the same time, we worked really hard on like those jobs. They were really, really hard. Kimmy is definitely a baller. Like she is fun when she wants to be fun, but she is like tough when she wants to be business.
Yeah.
So, which I appreciate, it's definitely, I learned a lot from her. But so we did that with Sealy too. And so when she moved to Wrangler, it took a minute because she was still looking for a job because she got laid off. And so, I was still kind of working with Tempur-Pedic. Colin Doherty he came on with Sealy, Tempur Sealy is what they called it. And so we did a little bit with them. And then once Kimmy got her job with Wrangler, that's when I came in and we were doing a lot of like concepting for shoots, like just to try and kind of like bring some freshness to like what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of like the concepting and then the production side of it, putting the shoots together. And then also I got hooked up with Wrangler to do, they redid their lobby on Elm Street. So we did their design for that lobby, and we redesigned their like executive boardroom, some of their conference rooms in that building. I think it's called the CEC or something like that. There's another building down on Elm Street that like needed, help. And so we worked on a design for that. So, I mean, like that was like a whole nother aspect of our company and like the production side of it, because you're still producing things and you still have to like, stay on track. But then it's just it wasn't a photo shoot. It was a construction job, it was a design build. So, so that was really a really great experience working with Wrangler. I mean, working with fashion photographers, y'all are all like awesome. Like I love the lifestyle part of it. I love the fashion part of it. That was really fun. Just learned like a whole new like skill set completely. And a whole new, working with like clothing was new and so fun. I mean, it was so fun to do fashion. That was awesome. So
well, good. Yes.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Well, after that, I mean, it basically like turned into COVID, I mean, I had my studio in Revolution Mill and I probably like I definitely overspent on rent. I was feeling the love and feeling like I could handle it. And I did not handle it well. And so I just, it just got to the point where I was like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It just got really bad. And so when everything just kind of shut down, I just had to like walk away, I mean, it's just one of those things that even to this day, I'm still like paying off like, debt that I have with that, which is a bummer, not to like end it on like a bummer note, but like, I just, got too big for my britches or something. I don't know what happened, but like I all of a sudden am like a little hamster in a wheel and couldn't like come up for air. I felt like I was constantly, like you said, all your eggs in one basket. I mean, I just couldn't get like that next big job because I was still trying to like, wrap up, e-com for Amazon, like doing dumb stuff like that so anyway, it just,
I mean, it makes
I
sense
think,
though, because you had it coming in. So why not go ahead and spend the money on the place? Because who saw COVID coming? I don't think anybody saw
yeah,
that. How long
yeah.
were you shut down because of COVID?
Well, I mean,
How long
actually,
between
it was
like one
even,
job to the next? Did you have a time where you weren't working at all?
definitely. I definitely was not working at all. Like, so I kind of stepped away from Wrangler and I was doing some styling for like Bernhardt Furniture. That was like holding me over. I was working with Tim and Cindy Schneider with Deja Vu Media. And that was incredible. Like I was a PA. I mean, at that point, I was just picking up jobs wherever I could, just to
Right.
kind of like fill the gaps and stuff. And I met some really great people and I really enjoyed it. But the last job that I did, and well, actually it wasn't the last job, but I remember going to New York with Eris Wells and we photographed. She somehow got this incredible like job with vet, like the pharmaceutical veterinarian product. And
Okay.
so we decided that we were going to, oh my gosh, and I didn't even tell you about the Dickies thing. But anyway, so Dickies had hired us because Craig used to be at Wrangler and then he moved to Dickies. So he got me into doing their showroom. I redid the Dickies showroom in the Overlook Bryant Park
Oh
in New
wow.
York, which was incredible. Yeah, that was so
Very
cool.
cool.
Yeah. And so that was an amazing experience. But anyway, so after that showroom was done, I was still friends with the showroom manager and I needed a space to shoot for Eris. And so we rented the Dickies, showroom and went up there. But it was in December of 2019. And I swear on the plane, on the way back, like I feel like I saw this like, little like piece of like something floating through the air. Not really, but this is how I envision it in my head. I
Okay.
breathed it in and it like stuck in the back of my throat. And literally like the next day I started coughing and like I think I got COVID. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened, but I mean, I just like literally got so sick. And that wiped me out. Like I've never been that sick. I remember going on location, like, cause I had to work. And so going on location with Bernhardt, that next Monday was at a doctor's house and there was a doctor and nurse and I was coughing so bad. And I was just like, I couldn't breathe. You could hear it in
Oh
my
yeah.
lungs. Like, and the woman looked at me. She's like, I think you might have pneumonia. She's like, so you need to go to the doctor. She's like, I think you have pneumonia. And I was like, I don't have insurance. Are you kidding me?
Oh
I'm not going to the
my God.
doctor. Yeah. So that was crazy. And then after that, that's when everything really started shutting down. I did one more job with Biltmore with Heather Ann Thomas, who's like a kind of more of a food photographer in Tennessee, but she got a job with Biltmore and I produced that shoot. And then that was the last one. And I didn't do any more photography. I basically like trained myself to be like a shipped like Instacart, like I've delivered groceries to like make ends meet. I mean, it
Yeah.
was like really, really, it was a struggle to say the least. And thank goodness my partner, he managed to have a job throughout COVID. And like, that was a saving grace, to be
Oh yeah.
honest. I mean, it was really difficult.
Yeah. I
What
get
were
it.
you doing?
Sitting on my ass for
Right.
about 4.5 months. And then
Yeah.
luckily my wife kept her job the entire time and she was able to work from home. But I did 4.5 months of nothing. Then I worked, let's see, in July, August, September, maybe 3 or 4 months. And then all of a
Right.
sudden it all shut down again until
Yeah.
January of 2021. So I did like four
Hmm.
and a half months of nothing, a couple of months, about another 3 months of nothing. The only
Yeah.
good thing that came out of it for me was completely redid the way I was shooting. Got a new
Well, that's
agent.
cool. Yeah.
So
Cool.
those things I think have been a really good thing, because I have a bunch of friends who are producers in New York at
Yep.
agency stuff. And I sent them, they had seen the way I had been shooting for years, with no
Mhm.
help really. Sent them my new portfolio, my new website before it ever launched. I was like, hey, check this out. And they were all like much, much better. And so
That's
I think
awesome.
that was a really good thing that came out of it for me. So
Right. Well, that's incredible. I mean, it definitely, there are pros and cons. I mean, I really appreciate the time that I was able to spend with my daughter,
yeah.
even though I'm sure like, she got bored of me being like, hey, what you doing?
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah.
but that was a really cool thing to be able to spend that much time with her. That was amazing.
Yeah. I
So
enjoyed the being home with the girls. Both my girls are home. My wife, she actually started doing yard work and like enjoyed working in the yard. And my
nice.
older daughter did too. We would walk through the neighborhood, do a walk, and they would see like a yard that had a bunch of weeds, and they go, "Oh, we should just go pull all those weeds for those people." I don't understand that. They
Right.
enjoy it, but then once she had to go
Good for
back
them.
to in person, that all ended. She would come home and like, on the weekends, not interested. So it was
Yeah.
all just because she was home and had some time.
Yeah.
They were all into it, but not
That's
anymore.
awesome.
Yeah. So, but it
Yeah.
was cool having everybody home, and
Right. It definitely was. It was an interesting experience to say the least, but I am so glad. I mean, like I said, I'm thankful that Ed offered me that job. It gave me something to
yeah. So, at what
do
point did you get offered the job at Lock Management, Model Management?
at, yeah. So February of 2021,
Okay.
he called me and said, hey, I'm interested in, learn finding out more about you, if you would be interested in maybe eventually like partnering with Mary to potentially like purchase the agency, that kind of thing. So it was kind of like it was a trial and error kind
Okay.
of process. And so I was like, Ed, I don't know if that's even anything that I would even be interested in. He's like, well, come try it. And so I didn't have anyone else knocking at my door at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let's do this. So for some reason, the hours were like grueling. Like 8:30 to 6. It was really a long day.
Yeah.
But I got up and I did it, and I learned a lot. I really did learn a lot about talent management and contracts and like usage and all of that. Like that was a
Yeah.
really big eye opener for sure. Definitely learned a lot about being a little bit more methodical on some things, because sometimes I would just fly through stuff and make mistakes. I had to be a lot more conscious about my math and,
Oh
making sure
yeah.
every I's and T's were dotted and all that stuff. So anyway, but it was a cool experience. I'm glad I did it for sure. And I'm thankful for Ed for giving me the
Did
opportunity.
the
I
Home
don't, I
Depot
definitely.
did the Home Depot thing pop up while you were still with Ed, or did you quit working at Lock and then the Home Depot thing popped up?
Well, it's really, really funny the way that it worked out. And Thanksgiving, the day before, so the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I got an email from Diana, and she was like, "Hey, Home Depot, we're hiring a producer. Do you know anyone that would be interested?" And I'm like, yes, I definitely know someone that would be interested. So she reached out to me and put that like kind of got the ball rolling. So that day I was like, oh
Was
crap,
that
I had
her
to
way
like
of
brush up
asking
on my
you if you wanted
resume.
the job?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was like, I mean, she's like, without saying you should apply for this. She's like, because
Right.
I didn't know where I was with Locke and like kind of like where my heart was at.
Right.
And so she's like, I was just putting it out there to see if you would give it a shot. And I was like, oh, hell yes, I am going to give this a shot. Definitely. So I just got my resume together and my cover letter. And that day I sent it out. And then ironically enough, like I told you, Ed and I have like butted heads, and so the next week we had a huge blowout. And I mean, I feel bad, but I insulted him and I didn't mean to, it
Yeah.
wasn't my intention, but I just, I insulted him. And so he was like, why don't you just take some time and just stay at home.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go stay home and think about whether or not you want to come back to Locke, and we will revisit, this at the beginning of the year. So he basically paid me through the month of December to stay at home and think about
that's nice.
what, right. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt very bad because I felt bad that I'd left Mary. I had jobs going on that like I had to walk away from. It was a really weird situation, but meanwhile, I'm like interviewing with Home Depot, and I'm like, I'm on like my second and third interviews, and so by the time December 31st rolled around, they'd already offered me a job, and I was going to put in my 2-week notice, but he's like, just don't even worry about it. Right. So I didn't, that was it. I never went back.
Okay.
Which is crazy. Yeah, I know. It was crazy. I mean, I'm just really, really thankful that it happened, because I just, I don't like to argue with people. I'm not an argumentative person. I don't like to fight or anything like that. And so it was clear that it wasn't a good match. Right. As long as Ed still wanted things to be done his way, it wasn't a good match. So
that happens.
Right.
It definitely happens.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And I understand, and it is what it is. So I'm glad to be where I am now.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Brand new to Home Depot. So hopefully it all works out and it's a wonderful gig for you.
Right. They have been so kind. Those people there are so nice. Look, they sent me like all these coasters.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Isn't that funny? I've got they've just been amazing. It's really like everyone has been so wonderful to work with so far. So I'm really excited.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one last question.
Of course.
What is the strangest, most unusual, or just most interesting thing that's happened to you since you started from working with Ringling Brothers all the way up until, the Home Depot, last month?
Oh man. I've had some crazy.
You can say multiple ones if you want to, but.
Gosh, Mark, that's like a stumper. Like, what's the craziest? I mean, okay, honestly, like it would have to be working with Ringling Brothers. So that's definitely like the craziest thing. Because okay, so this is just one story out of a million of those years. Okay. But anyway, it's sunset. Heinz is trying to get this like portrait. He's using his Hasselblad, he loves his Hassie and all this stuff. And so he's trying to get this like sunset portrait of this star elephant named Bo the elephant, sitting on the ground with his trainer. And like, it's like this like epic, like probably going to be like the cover of the, program, whatever, something like that. And so after he got the shot, he's like, oh, well, you guys go get in the shot. So like myself, my manager, somebody else. Anyway, so we go to get next to the elephant. And I'm so like, I'm so just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And Bo, the elephant, had these like crazy long tusks. I was going to like position myself in the photo, like right under where he would have like come down with his tusk. And the trainer, he grabbed me and pulled me. His tusk hit the ground, and you could like hear like the power that was behind that. That was like a pretty crazy experience, knowing that like I was dumb enough to think that I could just like pop in and like have a selfie with like the elephant, and like, it was crazy.
So if the trainer hadn't grabbed you, the elephant would just slam down on your head, basically.
Where I would have been on my head. Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of nuts. And then also in that same vein, like being in the Midtown Tunnel with all of these elephants, and one of them, happened to like step on the other one in front of its like toe.
Oh yeah.
And like, kind of like flat tired the elephant in front of him. And the elephant started trumpeting like in the tunnel. And that was nuts too, because like people that work with those animals every day and know them really well, like literally like we're jumping like over to the side of the tunnel thinking that like something might happen. There might be some sort of like stampede with the elephants.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I mean, I remember like we had to like run and get on the side because, you know, in the Midtown Tunnel, there's that little like walkway that like with the thing. And so people were like climbing. What's that?
That elf was walking on as he walked into the city from the North Pole.
Yes, exactly, totally. So I mean, they were like climbing up on there, thinking that something might happen. That was really a crazy. That's a noise I won't forget. That like trumpeting in the tunnel. That was crazy. Man, and then just, you know, all of these crazy like experiences in Las Vegas. I'm just nuts.
Sounds like it's been an interesting life. You got some good stories.
I do have some good stories. I definitely have some good stories. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be able to do this. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm like so thankful that I am able to live this life. I mean, it is so fun. It's like such a fun, and I know you feel that way too. I mean,
absolutely.
You meet some incredible people, you meet like and just amazing people. You get to work with amazing jobs, have amazing experiences. Yeah, I'm #blessed.
Yeah,
for sure.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for doing this.
Gosh, of course. I am so flattered that you would have me. I love it.